Welcome to another episode of Divorce TV. We're talking to a financial planner today who deals with large amounts of money. This is a very important subject in divorce. I'm looking forward to talking to Christina, and we're going to obviously have some updates on the news, and we're going to have an interesting healing at the end, which is teaching us some techniques around kinesiology. If you haven't heard of it, it's amazing. I've got some sugar here, and if you not that I want you to leave the show, but if you happen to have something a little bit unhealthy like sugar around by chance on a Friday afternoon, have it handy, because you might find out something interesting about how it interacts with your body later on at the end. And it is, of course, completely relevant to divorce. Right, now we're going to move forward with the news. And the first story today is Princess Love found out about Ray J filing for divorce on social media. This is in the Daily Mail. And now her rapper husband won't return any of her phone calls. Well, first of all, to say that letting your spouse find out about the divorce through social media is just not a good way to start the divorce. This fashion designer was never told directly that her singer-songwriter spouse made the recent application, according to the Shade Room. Additionally, Love claims that Love and hip-hop Hollywood star won't return any of her phone calls or text messages in the wake of the filing. It's just not a good start, is it? In court, documents obtained by The Blast, Ray J, born William Ray Norwood Jr., filed for dissolution of marriage in Los Angeles County Court. The 39-year-old star is asking for joint custody of the couple's two children. They share 2-year-old daughter Melody Love and 8-month-old Epic Ray Norwood. In Ray's filing, he claims the couple have a prenuptial agreement that he wants enforced, which details prior agreed support and personal property, which is not part of the marriage. Well, that should make things very simple and straightforward. It's very useful to have a prenup. But this is where it gets interesting. Oh, and he's appointed celebrity lawyer Laura Wasser for proceedings. But what I found interesting is this. In a May interview with Page 6, he claimed Princess insisted he could only see their little ones after quarantining completely alone at a hotel near her house. Now, this is a big issue for a lot of parents. I even communicated with someone today who was really worried about their partner going to the States, coming back, and then not wanting to quarantine first because they don't want to, miss out on the children. So it's a really big issue at the moment. So the hitmaker Princess Love alleged she would monitor Ray's Instagram and demand he restart his week of isolation if he failed to properly socially distance himself from others. I'm lonely right now, he says. I don't want to quarantine by myself. I keep telling Princess, but she says if I see one person over there with you, you've got to start over, he told the outlet. Ray J said, so I really have to lock myself in because I really miss my kids. She said, I got to put in 7 days alone and I'm good with the 7, but she really want me to do 14, so it's hard to look at the 13 days left. I really do feel for him, but I have to say that letting your wife know about the divorce through social media is just not smart. Move on to our second story. In this one from Kiss 95.1 FM, the story says Cardi B recently filed for divorce from Offset per a report from gossip site TMZ. The Bronx rapper filed court documents in Georgia indicating she's seeking a dissolution of marriage. The paperwork was filed on September the 15th, and according to the report, Cardi B is seeking primary physical custody as well as legal custody of their 2-year-old daughter, Culture. She also wants Offset to pay child support. Well, apparently, because according to TMZ, Cardi B now wants to be friendly and wasn't privy to her attorney filed documents that made her filing sound contentious. According to sources close to the money rapper, Cardi wants Offset to have joint custody of Culture and has asserted that she wants to have an amicable co-parenting relationship with the Migos member. Cardi has communicated with her lawyer and the court documents will be amended to reflect the Grammy Award-winning artist's wishes. Well, good for you, girl. Cardi's divorce petition stated that Cardi wants child support. However, according to TMZ, that's not true. Cardi doesn't want any financial support from Offset. The rapper has yet to respond to Cardi's petition. So who's in charge of this divorce? It's the lawyers or is it her? And this is a question you need to be asking yourself if you're on this. The lawyers are there to do what you tell them, and if you're not clear, confusion can arise. So you really do need to be very, very clear with what you want. Don't just sort of leave it up to them and then have to change it all later, because that's not a great start, all that confusion to their amicable divorce. And last but not least, this is an interesting one. The couple who split amicably have a divorce photo shoot and vow to co-parent successfully. I saw this one in the Metro. We have wedding, maternity and anniversary photo shoots to celebrate love and life, but we don't often celebrate divorce, no matter how amicable the split was. One couple who split on friendly terms have decided to change that with a fun, divorce-themed photo shoot that involved both the ex-husband and wife. Shalina Casanova from Oklahoma, US, and her former husband were the star of the shoot, holding up hilarious signs, it says, while laughing away. In one of the images, Shalina is on her knee holding a chalkboard that says, "Will you divorce me?" while her former partner's board says, "Yes." Right, please try not to judge. In one of the pictures, the former bride and the groom are seen holding signs that say, "I want a divorce now," and "I wanted a divorce yesterday." Shalina shared the images on her Facebook saying, "The oh well so shameful deed. We are by no means condoning divorce, but we are not ashamed to celebrate the end of our marriage." I'll just show you one more of the pictures. This one says, "Whoever said money can't buy happiness never paid for a divorce." Well, obviously it hasn't been an expensive divorce for these guys, because they clearly did it in a nice, amicable way, and good for them. So I'm not quite sure what this is all about. I shouldn't be too judgmental. I often used to have, in fact always had, photographers at my divorce shows. I've encouraged people to get photo shoots, but usually of the blended family, so they feel like it's lovely to see yourself in a photo and see that you are still a whole family. I'm not too comfortable about this. What do you think? Do you think this is a good thing? Could it be a new trend? One thing I definitely agree with here is Shalina says, "We are choosing to co-parent successfully. We choose to separate for the kids and not believe the lie that staying together for the sake of the kids is best for them. We love best when we are our best selves." Now we're going to have our expert interview, and we've got a special lady who works with money. She's called Christina Rogers, and she does financial planning for divorcees. Now, Christina, I'm just going to bring you in here now. I'm going to play the little
Susie.
slide. There you go. You had a proper intro. Nice to see you. Thanks for joining us. So I know that you understand that going through divorce and separation is extremely difficult. You're part of Chartered Wealth Management, and you have a team of empathetic professionals to make people feel really comfortable and at ease from day one. But you have a very bespoke service, don't you? So perhaps you could start by describing who is a typical client for you. Who are the people that you are usually helping?
Well, for us as a firm, we've got a variety of clients who get money from all sorts of sources, business, sales, all sorts of things. We tend to look after clients with over $1 million that's invested with us. So we are at the top of the market. But what I found in talking to so many different clients going through a divorce is the issues are the same. So if you've got a lot of wealth within the family, it is a bit more complex, and it's best to talk to a financial advisor who's specialist in that sort of thing. But a lot of the principles are the same.
And perhaps you could give us an example of some of the clients that you've worked with, because I know that I interviewed you recently, and you told me some lovely stories, and that really well illustrates the kind of depth that you go to in helping them. You don't just sit down and help them understand the numbers, do you?
Well, I mean, understanding the numbers is certainly part of it, but confidentiality is so important for everything that we do. But in broad brush terms, generally speaking, with larger divorcees, there's a situation where one person in the marriage has taken the lead with the finances, and very often the other party, whether it's the husband or the wife, but typically it is the wife, has focused on other things, been growing the family and growing the family's wealth that way. So that tends to be quite typical. Very often there are businesses involved, which can be quite complex, and certainly overseas assets. So Susie, there's normally a property in Spain or a property in France. And when you get different currencies, different assets, it can cause complications. So it's really important actually that people try and get to grips with what the family wealth is outset, and then work from there.
And it's quite, people might assume that if you've got a lot of wealth that you'd be really on top of exactly what you've got where and how much. But of course, that's just not true, is it? So I imagine a lot of the initial work is quite investigative and helping that your client actually work out what it is that is in the marital pot.
Absolutely. I think one of the mistakes that people make is they perhaps engage with a solicitor, or they start to progress things and they still don't really know what the assets are, where all the bank accounts are, where all the investments and the cash is. So part of my job is a little bit of a financial detective, trying to find out what there is and where, and you can normally do that in a very straightforward way. There's lots of resources online, Companies House, there's lots of places you can go to and get that information, and also have conversations with your spouse and ask those questions. Try and engage a little bit more with the finances. And if you can, what I try and do is distill it onto one piece of paper. Because if you can't get it on one piece of paper in a summary, you've not got all the information. So trying to get it in simple terms so you can see what there is, and then start to explore the implications for some of those things. What's the tax? What's the currency? And that's where, being a qualified financial advisor, I can help.
And what does that actually mean to be a qualified financial advisor? Because a lot of people, and I've even met lawyers who confuse your profession with financial advisors who do sort of who do mortgages and insurances, and they talk about actuaries for the pension splitting, which is kind of at the other end of the scale. So perhaps you could give a sort of easy dummy's guide to what a financial planner is.
Okay, well, first of all, you want to make sure they're regulated by the FCA, the Financial Conduct Authority. It's really important that you engage with a financial advisor and a firm who are fully regulated. That means that any advice they're giving you is insured and backed, and that's really important. Within the industry, you have level 4 advisors, which, gosh, I think I was about 20 years ago actually, and level 6 advisors, and I'm a level 6 advisor. So I'm a chartered wealth manager and a chartered fellow. So there are various professional organisations, and you really want to make sure that the person you're talking to is, I would say chartered is probably the best place to go. So either a chartered wealth manager or a chartered financial planner. That's the first thing I think you need to look for when you're seeking advice. Secondly, I think you want to engage with somebody who will take a time to get to know you before you perhaps enter into paying any fees, because if you don't feel comfortable with that person, it's not going to work. And any reputable financial advisor, financial planner, wealth manager, there are several different titles, properly qualified, properly regulated, but happy to spend time to get to know you first before they make decisions about any fees or anything.
Brilliant. And actually also one thing I'd really like you to give us before we finish is a very important thing that you find that people need to do right at the beginning of the process when it comes to the finances. Is there a common error that people make but they don't if they come and talk to you, something that you're very hot on with them?
Mm-hmm. I think people can overcomplicate things. It's really important to try and keep things simple. If you speak to anybody and you don't understand what they're saying, ask them to explain what they're saying to you, and make sure you're only engaging with people who will take that time. Get everything down, as I said, on one piece of paper. So do your homework beforehand. It's very emotional, but you need to find out exactly what's there and dig down. And a good financial advisor will be able to help and guide you to do that. You don't need to be hiring and paying fees with a raft of different professionals. You can get a good idea of what you've got through a fact-finding process that all qualified financial advisors will do.
And so quite often people are told go and talk to an accountant, and obviously accountants can be very useful in those early stages, but there's a lot, I think there can be a lot of confusion about that. So if you're trying to understand what you've got, how would you describe the difference between what work you might be doing with an accountant to what you might be doing with yourself?
Well, typically my clients are filing tax returns. Often they're filing them in different jurisdictions. So it could be the US, it could be a country in Europe, as well as the UK. So they're going to have an accountant involved. Very often, one of the spouses takes the lead with the accountant. But the accountant files the returns based on the information that they're given, and very often it can be quite sensitive if you approach the family accountant, for example, to get that information. So at this stage it's just about engaging with a financial advisor who can interpret letters you've got, maybe statements, and help you piece things together in a much more cost-effective way, I would say. It's not to say accountants won't be involved in the process, but at the beginning that might be a bit too soon to get them involved.
Brilliant. Thank you so much for that, and I'll look forward to having you on later shows. Thank you,
Lovely.
Christina.
Thanks, Susie.
I do love talking about the money in divorce, and the main reason being it's often the cause of so much strife, and if you can take responsibility for it and talk to the right people right from the start, you can massively reduce some of the hiccups that people get into. Now we're going to have a little bit of learning. So in our masterclass today, we're just on the last, I think it's now the 5 key stages in your divorce plan. And this one is about taking back control. And I'm going to whiz you through. It's just a little overview of an area that I think you should pay attention to if you're at any stage of your divorce. The key, of course, is avoiding conflict. No one really wins a fight. So taking back control is really about taking responsibility. It's making sure that you're really clear on the tools in the peace toolbox. So if you don't know about the different forms of mediation, if you don't understand what collaborative law is, you don't know how to use arbitration strategically to stop a mediation falling apart, then for goodness sakes, you really need to be in the secret divorce group because you can find out. Because this is information that you must have. If you don't know what tools you've got in your toolbox, you're not going to be able to do as good a job, and you're certainly not going to be so much in control. I've got here outsmart a disruptive soon-to-be ex. And these are skills you often do need to learn. If you've been bullied for years, psychologically, financially or physically even, then it's likely that you haven't yet learned how to deal with that behaviour safely. And there are many skills you can learn, and if you're going to co-parent, you're going to need to learn them. So it's not enough to say, oh, I can't deal with my ex, they're too controlling, they're too difficult. Well, learn a few basic skills that within the realms of safety, obviously, and make sure that you can be a little bit more canny about how you deal with them. Stay out of court strategy. Have you got a stay out of court strategy? What is your strategy? If it's just to leave it up to the lawyers or even to the mediator, some people just think, well, we go along and they sort it all out for us. You could have a nasty shock. This is your divorce. It's not theirs. You're the one who needs to have a clarity and a strategy about what you want to achieve. And what if scenarios. It's really good to go through not just being prepared, but looking at what reduces the stress the most, which is being just clear on what to do if your ex does X or Y. A lot of people say, oh, he won't do this or she won't do that. First of all, I go, how do you know? Maybe you should give them the opportunity. But actually, you're just desperately trying to find some certainty. But isn't it better to go, well, maybe they'll do this, maybe they'll do that, and this is how I will respond. This is how I'll put the boundaries down. This is what we will do next. So, for example, if the mediation goes wobbly, you don't have to give up and go straight to court. You might then discuss using arbitration to resolve that particular issue. So staying ahead of the game is key. And those what-ifs need to be incorporated into your overall strategy. You need to be one step ahead and not delusional with your head stuck in the sand, which is a common place for people to be in divorce. These are just some of the ways that I help divorcing people take back control in my divorce masterclass online video course, which we've got the the QR code there. You can get a whole chunk of it for free still if you want to access that. And taking back control is not about you being a bully, it's about you being smart and informed. Now we're going to look at a little shared story here. I've got a short one from the archives, and please, anyone watching, if you've got a story to share, it might be your own story or a client that you've worked with that you have permission to share elements of their journey that will be useful for others. I really do invite you. So this is the lovely Andrew, who I grabbed a while ago in his garden and asked him to just share some of the wisdom that he had on relationships, and see what you think.
See your relationship from the outside, from someone looking in and seeing how you behave, and ask yourself, is that how you want to be? And you can only ever do that when you take regular breaks away from your life. So take regular breaks away from your life. Practice gratitude. You know, I always say mortality always brings us back to our senses. You know, if you were to die tomorrow, if you were to be blind tomorrow, would you really be worrying about how your partner is behaving today? The answer is no. So learn to be grateful. If your child was to be hit by a bus tomorrow and killed, would you be worrying about how your partner is behaving today? So it's all about perspective. It's all about putting it into perspective. You are so lucky to have a healthy body, to have healthy children. Be grateful for that. So gratitude, regular breaks from your life. And thirdly, other practical advice, get out into the world and find new friends, find new things to do, create a new life for yourself, and stop trying to live the old life and hold on to the old life. Go into the world as a new person, a new lease of life, and you will soon find that the old ways and the old ways of trying to control and manipulate a circumstance to be there for you the way it was before slowly goes, and you live again in this new dawn of this new creation you call your life.
Thank you, Andrew. Great advice. I love listening to that. Anything that reminds me of what I need to be thinking of myself. So, quick roundup here before we move on to our healing. I did say earlier you may want some sugar or something else like that, something that you can have that's a little bit unhealthy. It's not essential, but you'll just have even more fun with it if you do that. So I'm just going to play a short, I may have played this before, but it's worth seeing again. It's just a little testimonial from the Secret Divorce Group. Oh, before then, we have something even more exciting. How can I forget? We ran recently the Divorce Financial Workshop again, and this is just a couple of the things that people said. I love this. Thanks, Divorce Squad. This should be the new thing that we call ourselves. They found it all really helpful, and thank you. Now you have this. I have the start of a plan of action. So I really do love doing these Divorce Financial Workshops. That QR code there, by the way, is for the waiting list, and I'm just waiting on some lovely law firms to let me know. Have you found it useful?
Yeah, and particularly for what you say, and I think Henry had said, because I found Henry and I've spoken to a mediator, got a mediator from you, and being able to just ask those questions. Henry said I'm the most active person in there, and the one who always is asking the questions, go, but what about this and what about that? And it's good, and it's also, I think, really helpful to know it's not on Facebook, and that there's other people going through the same stuff, and that in itself is invaluable. So yeah, really good. Thanks, Susan.
So it's a lovely little group, and it does give you, because often you might have just a little question, and you don't necessarily need to employ a lawyer to answer it. It might not even be a legal question. So I've also got lots of other resources in there. There's videos. You can have ongoing support in a healthy community, and I'm keeping it so accessible because I really believe it's really important that everyone has support during this difficult time to help them keep everything on track. Yep, come on into the Secret Divorce Group if you haven't already. That's where I get to hang out and answer questions and just generally be useful. So now we've come to our healing time. So make yourself comfortable and get ready for something a little bit different. Welcome, Barbara. Thank you for coming on the show. Can you hear me well? Have you got your sound on so we can hear you?
Now it's okay.
Brilliant, brilliant.
Very well. Thank you. Hi, Susie. Hi.
And perhaps you could just briefly, before we start, just give us a little idea of what we're going to be doing together today.
Well, I thought to demonstrate how to muscle test. Muscle testing allows us to find in a very simple way how words, foods, thoughts, situation might affect our well-being, both physically and emotionally. And
Brilliant.
I'm going to demonstrate directly how to muscle test and also see what sugar also does to our body.
So from our perspective of the show today, this can be something that's useful for our general health. If you can test whether something's good for you or bad for you, it helps you give you more control over your diet and your health. But also, can it be used for your emotional? Are there any other areas that you would recommend using muscle testing kinesiology for?
Absolutely everything. Today I was having a conference or a session with a client, and because of her emotional status, she wasn't sure whether to phone a particular person or not, and without me giving her advice, because it's coming from a third party, I asked her to muscle test whether it was in her highest interest, if it was good for her self-confidence, for her well-being. And guess what? The answer was not today.
Is it fair to say that it's like your own deeper knowledge is a way of tapping into that in a very kind of practical, accessible way?
Yes. Muscle testing, it really is based on the assumption that our body never lies. Our body has the answer to questions, everything, because it comes from our subconscious. Our body knows, our body has the power to heal if given the right instrument to do so.
So I'm going to let you start, and I'm going to put some very gentle music underneath to set the mood, and I'm really looking forward to doing this along with everyone else.
Right, okay. When you're okay, first of all, as I just said, muscle testing is a very gentle technique to determine whether certain situations, certain food, thoughts or words are weakening us. And when I say weakening us, we are talking about the whole body. We are talking about our mental body, our physical body, our emotional body. We do not separate any of that. Our physical body is literally the manifestation of what goes on inside as well and outside in our world. So to start with, muscle testing is based on strong muscle and a weak muscle. Strong muscle doesn't mean going to the gym, but it's just assessing the energy flowing into that particular meridian. And the easiest one is using literally the thumb to the little finger, and that's literally the movement we want to use. It's not very probably visible, so that is the range of movement. Okay, and to start seeing how it works, I'd like you to start talking to yourself and say, my name is Barbara. Susie, if you want to do it, and see the response.
My name is Barbara.
That's loud. It doesn't sound like. Can you say, my name is Susie, please?
My name is Susie. Oh, then it's strong. Yeah.
So maybe you want to do this way. It's more visible if you prefer.
We're just watching you. We're just watching you, Barbara. Just so I'm not on the screen. They've had enough of me.
Don't stand in front of the camera. So if you do it, maybe like that, yes. And then you want to say to your body, show me a yes response, and it should be staying strong. Okay, and then you do the same. Show me a no response. And really, it is a matter of trusting what you're doing and practice it. Okay, so if we come to sugar, what I'd like, that sugar is really detrimental for us, and everyone is talking about it. What you want to do is place the sugar anywhere close to your body. If you are sitting, you can place it on your legs, because I've taken it out from my test vial for my clinic. I'm going to place it just near here on my shoulder, near my neck, and I'm going to simply test, because the body reads the vibration of the food. So if your muscles are really strong, that should be really weak, because we know that sugar is weakening us. And the same you can try with everything in your house. I've got a bottle of water, my water, and I know that today I am a bit dehydrated. So if I place it near my legs or here, but it doesn't stay, and you try, it will be going strong, because the body needs water. And the same is with thought and words, the way we express ourselves. And again, if you want to think, for example, about what has happened the past few months, the isolation we've experienced, the stress, you just focus on that particular situation. And if I close even with my eyes closed, I go there and I think about those months where I was isolated with my family in Italy away, and I think of that, and my body goes completely weak. So the muscle testing is an amazing tool for day-to-day questioning, even to yourself. Is it good for me? For example, having that extra glass of wine, or if you had an argument and if you hold this tension in your body, the important thing is we need to learn to let it go, because bringing out of balance everything, it will lead to illnesses. And even with stress, we tend to deny that stress impacts us. Stress is a big word, and by thinking only about, if you think about stress, Susie, and you start testing, you will see incredibly how your body weakens. So that is really powerful, and not denying that. I've seen in my clinic, for example, many people says, "Oh yes, I have gone over that argument." But if you think of that particular situation, if you haven't dealt from a very deep cellular level healing, the emotion will be there. And in the long run, we have an accumulation of emotion, of stress, that will bring our body out of alignment. What I'd like to share, and what I do in my clinic as well, is I've got a sort of affirmation I use with my clients. For example, if I think about hunger, someone has disappointed me, I've got this affirmation that says, I am allowed to say it?
Yes, please, that'd be lovely.
Yeah? Okay.
Should we shut our eyes? Should we close our eyes?
If it's comfortable for you, you can. And you might want to repeat in your head. You focus on something that it is that has probably upset you, and we want to clear it from our cellular level. So what's the name? The affirmation is, I clear and transmute all the matters, programming around anger, over all time, space, dimensions, and reality. And this takes into consideration everything that has happened to you in the past. It will happen in the future. Stress and trauma that you are probably brought down in generation in your bloodline as well. So that mantra clears clears everything from past, present, and future. And it has been so empowering for many, many clients, because at times it's bringing the realization of this strong feeling into awareness is not sufficient. We want to clear it from cellular level so that we can move on and do the next one. And you can apply this mantra, this affirmation, to any emotion. We want to detach from it. We don't want them affecting us.
That's lovely,
Really.
Barbara. Thank you. And what would be really great is I'm going to message you with the links to all the different places the show goes out. And what would be wonderful if you could add into the comments a bit more information and links so people can find out more. Will you do that for us?
Absolutely. And yeah, at any time, no problem at all.
Lovely. Thank you so much. I'll see you on Facebook and LinkedIn and everywhere else. Bye-bye. Bye. Thank you so much, Barbara. So that's a different one for us. I do like that idea that you can identify whether you still are quite angry, because often we fool ourselves that we're not, and we can't deal with something unless we can identify it and admit it's still there. So once again, in the war of divorce, on the battlefield of family separation, always make peace your weapon of choice. See you next week.